The Christmas vacation is over, the family is home, and the world is settling back into the mundane rhythm of a new year. A mother 8 months pregnant is relaxing in a warm bath, reading a magazine. Her husband is shaving in the mirror. Down the hall, their 13-year-old son, Carl Eric Charlie Brandt, is moving with a terrifying silent purpose. He retrieves his father's 9mm handgun from a nightstand drawer. In the next few seconds, the peace of that home will be shattered by 2 gunshots, a tragedy so profound and inexplicable that it would be buried for decades, only to resurface with the horrifying realization that this single act of violence was merely the prologue to a much darker, more extensive catalog of crime. Remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. Also coming soon to Substack. Charlie Brandt was born in Connecticut in 1957, the second child of German immigrants Herbert and Ilse Brandt. The family was outwardly respectable, moving frequently due to Herbert's work as an engineer for International Harvester. Charlie was a good student, but shy and reportedly struggled to adjust to new surroundings. His older sister Angela would later recall a quiet, withdrawn boy, but one who showed no outward signs of the monster he would become. The family had recently settled in Fort Wayne, Indiana, a seemingly stable environment for the 4 Brandt children. The family had just returned from their annual Christmas vacation in Ormond Beach, Florida. The atmosphere in the house on January 3, 1971, was relaxed, perhaps even sleepy. Ilse Brandt, pregnant with her 5th child, was enjoying a soak in the tub, reading a copy of Time magazine. Herbert Brandt was at the sink, preparing for the week ahead. It was a scene of domestic tranquility, a snapshot of American life in the early 70s, utterly unprepared for the eruption of violence that was about to occur. Charlie entered the bathroom and, without a word, raised the 9mm handgun. He fired 2 shots at point-blank range. The first bullet struck his father Herbert, wounding him severely but not fatally. The second bullet struck his mother, Ilse, killing her instantly, and also ending the life of the unborn fetus. The sudden, brutal nature of the attack left Herbert stunned and bleeding but alive. The violence did not stop there. Charlie then moved to the bedroom of his older sister, Angela. He attempted to shoot her, but the gun jammed or failed to fire. A desperate, terrifying struggle ensued between the 13-year-old boy and his sister. Angela, showing incredible presence of mind, managed to calm her brother, promising him that she would help him figure out what to do. She convinced him to go upstairs to retrieve blankets for their 2 infant sisters, who were asleep and unharmed. As soon as Charlie left the room, Angela fled the house and ran to a neighbor's home for help. Charlie, realizing his sister had gone, followed her outside. He knocked on another neighbor's door, and a chillingly calm voice delivered the line that would define the case. "I just shot my mom and dad." When police arrived, Herbert Brandt, despite his injuries, was able to identify his own son as the shooter. When interviewed by the police, Charlie claimed he couldn't remember the act, describing himself as being in a trance-like state that only broke during the struggle with Angela. He attributed the shooting to a combination of things related to school, saying, "Everything sort of just snapped in my mind. I felt like I never felt before." He also mentioned a recent incident where his father had shot and killed the family dog while they were hunting in Florida, an event that may have been a catalyst for his psychological break. Because he was only 13, Indiana state law prevented him from being tried for murder. Instead, Charlie was sent to a psychiatric hospital in Indianapolis. He spent just 1 year there before being released back into the custody of his family in June 1972. The 3 separate psychiatric evaluations conducted on him failed to determine a clear motive or trigger for the shooting. The doctors could only conclude that he was too young to be held criminally responsible. Upon his return, the Brandt family made a collective, unspoken decision. They would never speak of the incident again. It was a strategy of silence, a desperate attempt to bury the trauma and move on. This silence was so complete that Charlie's 2 younger sisters grew up believing their mother had died in a car accident. The family moved to Florida in 1973, seeking a fresh start and a new life far from the ghosts of Fort Wayne. In Florida, Charlie Brandt appeared to lead a perfectly normal life. He graduated high school, got a job at Ford Aerospace, and eventually married his high school sweetheart, Terry. He was known as a quiet, hard-working man, a devoted husband, and an avid fisherman. He and Terry settled in the quiet community of Big Pine Key and later in Maitland, Florida. To all appearances, the boy who shot his mother had been successfully rehabilitated and had left his violent past behind. But the past, as it often does in true crime, was merely dormant. In 1989, the body of a homeless woman, Sherry Parasho, was found near Brandt's home in Florida. She had been brutally murdered, her head severed and her body dismembered with surgical precision. The case went cold, and no one suspected the quiet, unassuming Charlie Brandt. The police created a composite sketch of a suspect, but it led nowhere. The true horror of Charlie Brandt's life was finally revealed on September 13, 2004, 33 years after the first shooting. Hurricane Ivan was bearing down on Florida, and Charlie and Terry were staying with Terry's niece, Michelle Jones, in her home in Maitland. On that night, Charlie stabbed his wife, Terry, to death, and then brutally murdered Michelle, disemboweling her with a knife. He then hanged himself in Michelle's garage. The discovery of the crime scene was shocking. The sheer brutality and the clinical, almost surgical nature of Michelle Jones's dismemberment immediately raised red flags for investigators. They noted Brandt's efficiency and his hidden obsession with human anatomy, which was later discovered through his personal effects. This led them to reopen the 1989 cold case of Sherry Parasho. The investigation into the 2004 murder-suicide and the subsequent link to the 1989 murder of Sherry Parasho led police to a terrifying conclusion. Charlie Brandt was a suspected serial killer. Investigators began to look into other unsolved murders in Florida, particularly those involving dismemberment or surgical precision. The police now suspect him in 3 other Florida murders, but his true number of victims could potentially be up to or exceeding 30. The story of Charlie Brandt is a chilling testament to the danger of buried trauma and the failure of a system to recognize a nascent monster. The boy who shot his mother was never truly rehabilitated. He was simply released to continue his life, a ticking time bomb of violence waiting for the next trigger. The silence of his family, though understandable, allowed a serial killer to operate undetected for decades. It is a stark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters hide in plain sight, living quiet, ordinary lives. Remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of The Calendar of Crime. Coming soon to Substack.